All right, welcome
And here
to
we are.
Bob's and a Microphone. And you have your microphone, right?
I do, and we're good.
Yeah, same here.
Now, Bob, I don't have a fancy one like yours. Actually, I've got my iPods in, and
Now I don't
yeah.
want to step on any toes here, but you just showed your age. You said you have your iPods in. Those are AirPods. You'd have to have a big ear to get those iPods in there.
Oh my gosh, and I do. Yeah, it's getting easier and easier to show my age, I have to say.
Right? Well, I hear you. And Kara Cutlip says good morning.
Good morning, Kara. Good to see you.
So,
And Kara kind of rhymes with coffee,
and
and
can I can I
it's
can I make a confession right now?
okay. Go for it.
I forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. I'm drinking gas station coffee this morning.
Oh my goodness.
I
Well,
know
but it's better than nothing, Bob.
it
That's
is.
the
It
thing.
is. I hang my
And
head in shame though.
yeah.
We
Well,
have
and
this
I understand.
we have this chain of gas stations up here in Wisconsin, up here in the north, and it's called Quick Trip, and it's actually a little slice of heaven right here in the northern parts of the United States, and
Really?
they sell everything, and their coffee's really good, but it's no headbanger brew. I'm just gonna say that.
Well, and of course, that is the best kind. Isn't
Yes,
it interesting how I just happen to have it right there?
it
There we go.
just happened to
Yeah.
have it. Yeah, that's funny.
I
Sue
know.
Sumar Toy says, "Let's go."
Sumar, good for you. Well,
And
I'm glad people are joining us today. Orlando's here as well from
yeah,
Texas.
Orlando says, "Good morning from
Excuse me,
Texas."
Orlando.
There you
Is
go.
that how you say that? Orlando
Again, I'm
Martinez.
from Wisconsin, so I don't know.
Yeah, see, well, and he's cool. Orlando's cool. Good morning, Orlando. So I
Um,
have to tell you something that happened to me, Bob.
yeah.
I just finished going through, well, COVID for the second time.
Wow.
And this time I had it with pneumonia. It's been a little, but this time I really lost my taste a lot.
That's no good when you're a coffee drinker.
Well, and Kara, see, I knew she was a coffee drinker.
Yep.
Coffee, metal, and Jesus. And notice she said coffee twice.
Well, just her profile picture, her eyes are wide open, like she just had some headbanger brew coffee.
It's it. It's it. She's the coffee drinker.
Oh, there we
And
go.
then
Good day from
Karen,
Australia.
good day to you, Karen. Good to see you. So during this time, Sigmar is here, good
Yep.
friend. And Elliot, good morning. So during this time, I lost my taste, and I lost my taste for coffee.
Oh no,
I know. Hi, Mark.
that's
And
not
Mark
good
is
for you.
actually drinking Headbangers Brew along with me. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So I lost my taste for coffee, and it wasn't until yesterday
Okay.
that it started to come back. It's still not fully there, but that was my biggest concern. Good morning, Shirley.
That was
She
the
said,
biggest concern for my wife too my whole family had COVID back in December, and Tracy could deal with everything
hmm,
with COVID related except the loss of taste. She
oh,
likes her she needs to be delivered. She likes her Starbucks, but we're working on that.
yeah, well,
So,
and in Jesus' name,
yes.
we'll keep praying for her. Yes,
I feel like I should have a white hanky because I'm Pentecostal.
I know. Yes.
Do the
You
old
know,
what is that? Vestal Goodman thing, with the white hanky wherever you go.
yes. Hmm. Dude, that was the best.
I,
Glenn
you and
Mancaruso's here.
not too many
Good
people
morning,
know this
Glenn.
about you and me, that we've both come out of the closet,
We have.
and that is
Yes.
that is the Southern gospel music closet.
Well,
That
I wrote an article for Christianity Today years ago called "Confessions of a Gaither Fan." I think it was a classic Gaither fan
that is
or one
awesome.
of those. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. And good morning, Dave Hart. Oh, I have to show you something now that Dave is in the house.
Dave's in
Hold
the
on.
house. All right. Do you want
Dave
to hear
just
one of
sent
my
me this
confessions
mug.
really quick?
Listen, Dave sent me this mug. It is the coolest mug. And it said, I would fight a bear for you, brother. Well, not a grizzly or a brown bear or a panda, but maybe a Care Bear.
There,
I'd fight one of those.
he's a good friend.
He's a great friend for a lot of years. Good to see you, Dave Hart. He's
So, do you want
awesome.
to hear? You want to hear a cool story about Southern gospel music?
Hey, Vito. Yes.
And Vito is part of the church here in Wapaka. He just moved up to the area. His brother was actually my youth pastor growing up, so it's really cool to reconnect with Vito.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about that I was going to share is we're all familiar. If you know Southern gospel music, you know Doris Akers. I mean, it's right up there with Buster Goodman.
Yes.
And I heard that Doris this is when I was working the Christian bookstore circuit, and I heard Doris was in a nursing home and just kind of hanging on and stuff. And so I called the nursing home and just said, hey, can I talk to Doris Akers? And they connected me to her room, and she just picked up, and we talked for about an hour about gospel music.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, I even got to pray with her, and it was just a real special time for me and
yes.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Well, Karen has asked a question a couple of times now. Rodney, good morning to you.
Oh, yes.
But she's wondering about getting Headbangers Brew in Australia. And we are really working on getting crafters internationally. Bob, to just get this sent to Europe, for instance, it's going to be like $30 or $40 for shipping.
But can we really put a price tag on that coffee? I mean, seriously.
Well, and that's the point. That's a good point. Peter Stenlin, good morning to you, Peter.
Yeah, that would be cool to get that
Sweden.
over there, though.
Yeah.
See if
and Peter is in Sweden, and he needs some Headbangers Brew.
Yes,
Peter.
Peter of all people, he needs the Headbanger Brew, and well, that would be cool to get a distributor in different countries. To
it really would, and we're continuing to look into it, but that would be a really great thing. And Jim says, I'm doing better on dialysis. They're using a fistula on my other arm. Jim has really been through it, Bob. He's been through quite a few surgeries now, and we continue to pray for you, Jim. Jim's an old friend.
Yep.
And
how about this greeting? Good day from Adelaide. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love our Australian friends. We have so many, and I'm so happy we have a presence in Australia. That's great.
Yeah.
Love Australia. Have you ever been there, Bob?
No, but I've been to Nashville, but
Well, that's okay. Well, it's kind of like that old Three Dog Night song. Well, I've never been to Spain.
That's right.
But I've been to Oklahoma. Yeah.
That's right.
So, you have been to Nashville.
Yeah.
Which I hate to say would be probably a little step up of almost anywhere, because this is where God lives. This is the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. Say that 5 times real fast.
Anytime that there's that's where the contemporary Christian music scene is, that's got to be where God is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Dana's getting ready to hit the trails. Dana's a truck driver.
Oh, nice.
And used to live with this pastor, Bob, many, many years ago when he was a kid, and that's been a while ago.
Yeah.
So
Richard
and
Boucher
Richie, I call him Richie. Probably most people call him Richard, but I've known him since he was Richie. Good morning, old friend, to you. He's a great guy. He went to Sanctuary in California.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I can't help but when I ever hear the name Richard, my mind always goes back to the movie Tommy Boy, because that was one of the Richard. So
and Richie would be Happy Days.
Yeah. Yeah. Richie, Ralph Mouth, and Potsy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And the Fonz, of course.
Oh yeah, Arthur Fonzarelli. So
Arthur, yes.
I was listening to an interview. He was just in our town a couple months ago for the big car show that we have here, and he said somebody asked him. I was a photographer for the event, and somebody asked him, who was your least favorite person to work with on Happy Days? He said the person I can't stand to this day was Pinky Tuscadero. He
Really?
Yeah, he said off the set they were like water and oil. so
Oh, that's
so there
interesting. You
so
never
there's
know
your
what's
moment
going
of
on.
sanctuary trivia this morning, you know.
Yes. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Of course, on camera, everybody gets along, right?
that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
You keep those checks going.
Spencer.
Yep. It's like us, you know, we get the big checks coming in and off the camera we don't even talk to each other, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's kind of that's the bottom line.
Yeah. So it looks like we have about 48 people watching right now live with us. And
Good.
that's exciting. I do want to say thank you for tuning in on a special Tuesday presentation. I have something I need to be to tomorrow. And so, but we got some cool guests today. We have Rex Carroll joining us from, wow. Well, Pastor Bob, what has he been a part of? A Whitecross?
Well, Whitecross is the most notable, but King
Yep,
James and yeah, he's done just about everything.
he has. He
And
has. And
there
Rex
aren't
Carroll
many
Band,
guitar
his
players
blues
that are
band
any.
is amazing.
Yes, absolutely. There
And
aren't that many guitar players better than Rex.
no,
He's just the best. And
you know, when
such a
I
great guy.
in the mainstream world, they brag up people like and they rightfully so. They should brag up people like David Gilmour of Pink Floyd and
Yes,
Yngwie
sure.
Malmsteen and stuff like that. But on the Christian side of it, and I know we don't like the label of music Christian mainstream. I don't even like the word secular. But on our side of the tracks, we got Rex Carroll. You know, it's
Yeah,
like that,
and man, yes, we do. And just what a powerhouse. And a real a real hero of his craft.
yeah,
Hello, Thomas. So I have to tell you an Yngwie story. You mentioned Yngwie,
yeah,
but this is many years ago. But I was at Capitol Records, the that round building in Hollywood,
yep,
and
iconic.
I can't remember why I was there, but I was there for probably one of our albums or something that we were doing. And keep this question for a second, I'll answer it.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, I they introduced me to a guy that was sleeping on the pool table in one of the rooms, and I thought, well, that's so nice that they let this homeless guy, come in, and just because he looked very homeless, he looked like he'd kind of been through the ringer, and he was kind of sleeping on the pool table.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that was really nice of them. And I thought, and I shook his hand and told him it was good to meet him and all of that. And a few days later, they debuted this new guy called Yngwie Malmsteen, and I had just met Yngwie sleeping on a pool table.
There you go. Doesn't get to be much more of a rock and roll lifestyle than that.
I know, it's true. Well, James, you said, when is the book coming out? And at this point, it's which book? Because I have three of them that I'm working on, and I'm not sure which one's going to be
Hmm.
released yet. So stay tuned. I know. Of course, this one, where are we at? There. I'm turned around here.
Yeah.
Um, this one is still selling extremely well, and I just got my stats for this last month. I think it was one of our biggest month in sales
Wow.
for
There you
Metal Devo. So I'm
That's
very
a great
excited
book.
that so many are reading Metal Devo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dave here says, good to hear you got those sound problems worked out. You know, it was a nightmare when we had really good show previously with Eric Clayton and GFM and stuff. But I found with this particular program, you have to use Google Chrome. Otherwise it all goes downhill. So
Yeah.
Vito asked a question for you, Pastor Bob. Do you know Dave Hope from Kansas?
I don't think so.
Of course, we know Kerry Livgren and
Yeah.
John Elefante, but yeah, Dave Hope. I haven't.
No, and I probably met him, but and I know Carrie very well, and of course I know John Elefante very well. We've
Yeah,
done a gazillion albums together, and
you have a piece
and
of memorabilia in your office there from Pachyderm Records. In fact, from John Elefante.
I do. When we had Pachyderm Studios, they didn't want anybody to know where the studio was at, and so um, hold on to that question for a second. So they had just this dummy sign made up, big sign, wooden sign that says "Custom Stove Covers Incorporated." There's no such thing as custom stove covers, but that was the sign above Pachyderm. And then when Pachyderm moved, they gave me the sign.
That's
So
amazing.
so I still have it on my wall. Custom stove covers. Who knew?
So much good music came out of Pachyderm Records.
So much, and they produced so many albums for us back in the day.
Yeah.
The first ones, California Metal, and all the early stuff, and when no one else would sign all of the bands, they did. And I spent hundreds of hours sitting in the studio working with all the bands and working with the music, and yeah, such great times. Karen's saying, are your books available online? And yes, the best way, you can get them anywhere, but the best way would be through Amazon. And if you just want to put my name, Pastor Bob Beeman, on in Amazon, it'll go to all of my books and everything is there.
Okay. Here's a good
Yeah.
question, and I'm not opposed to it. In fact, I could probably try and track them down. Um, it says, "Good morning. How are you doing? Will both of you interview Mark Solomon of the Crucified and Stavesacre? You probably have a little history with him, don't you?"
I have a lot of history with Mark, and I would love to have him on the show.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
I
Yes.
love suggestions, and I'd be willing, or if you want to, we can try to track him down and see
Yeah.
what.
Well, I have his info, so just remind me.
Okay, so yeah, for the
Good.
Legends Confessions, which will be coming up soon.
Yeah.
I talked about Rex Carroll being on, but also our other guest is going to be Don Waite from one of our own podcasters.
Yes. Love that guy. I can't wait to chat with him this morning as well. But yeah, he's a
Yeah.
pretty cool guy.
So we still have a lot of
And
people coming, weighing in here, but yeah, you and Don go way back, don't you?
we do. Don was a kid. And Don, don't take this personally, but he's not a kid anymore.
No, he's a few gray hairs, but
Yeah, well, I think it's no hairs at this point.
yeah,
You
I
you
think so.
guys that are bald and beautiful.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah,
Yeah.
some of the folks I'm working on to get on for an interview, that I would like that we're working on is, um, of course, Jimmy Brown and Mark Solomon. One of the friends that I have that's close that I he gives me a hard time. I give him a hard time on Facebook, but we do have a good friendship. Is Luke Easter from Tourniquet, and
Yes, Luke is
um,
great.
so and
Well,
I think
let's do that.
yeah, I think Sean Browning from Grave Robber might be willing to do
Good.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Well, and folks, let us know who you'd like to see on the show too. And
yeah.
we're talking about the classic bands and the new bands. We'd like to do both.
I've actually in the next 2 weeks, I got some really good new bands that are going to be joining us. One is called Scarlet Rain. They're out
Yes,
of Rhode Island area, and then the other
right.
one is just 40 miles down the road from me, called Blue Line Horizon. They've been making their name known on the Christian festival circuit, and
Oh,
just a
that's
heavy,
awesome.
heavy sound, and they love Jesus, and I think would be that'll be a really good show. So the next two shows we have our new band spotlights up and running. But certainly, if there's any
Awesome.
bands that are watching this that want to be on this show,
We'd love to have them. Yeah,
yeah, let me
we
in
would.
fact let me put this up here really quick on the screen. They can email us.
Yes. And
So
Sigmar just said, what about Baron Cross? He loves Baron Cross. And I think that would be cool. Ray, the guitar player for Baron Cross, will be here in a couple of weeks visiting me. And of course, Jim lives right down the road. So
yeah,
it'd be great to maybe have a little reunion on with the Baron Cross guys too.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
Brian, thank you for joining us. Brian's a good friend of the ministry, and appreciate that you're on break and you've spent a couple minutes with us. We're just
yeah,
we're a couple rambling guys this morning, Bob.
that's it. We're just
Yeah.
going and talking about things. And this guy posts some legend. This lady posted some legends here. Karen said, "How about Daryl Mansfield or Mike
Daryl,
G?"
well, let's do all of those. I think
There
that's
you
great.
go.
Phil doesn't live that far from me. I've been to his house. I actually did a wedding at his house.
Oh,
But
okay.
David Severo would be good, or all the guys in Bloodgood would be awesome. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have so many people that would be great to have as guests, don't
Well,
we?
and that's the beauty of this show. We're only 3 shows in, and we can really looking forward to keeping this show going. And so there's no shortage of Christian artists to have on this show.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
And they mentioned also Daryl Mansfield, and
yeah.
a lot of you that are metal fans don't know Daryl Mansfield, and maybe that generation. But Daryl has always been a great friend of the ministry, and
Hmm.
in fact, Daryl sings 2 songs and plays harmonica on the last Sanctuary Praise album.
Wow.
And always been a good friend of the ministry. Die
Another guy,
Happy, that would be great.
just a legend in the Christian and mainstream music.
Yes,
He's a legend. Um,
absolutely. And
so
James says Die
here's
Happy.
one.
And of course, Glenn Mancaruso from Die Happy is
Yeah.
watching us right now. Yeah. And
And
that'd be
who
great
else?
to get those guys together.
We could bring in Roger Dale,
We
from
could
Die
bring in
Happy as
Roger
well.
Dale and all of the old guys. We'll
Yeah.
do that. That'd be fun.
So,
Yeah.
well, I guess where do we want to go first? We can give an update on the metal shop, or we could bring in Rex. He's on standby. What do you think where should we go next here?
Do we have Rex in the house?
Rex is in the house.
Well, let's not keep him waiting. I'd love to bring Rex in if we could.
All right.
There he is.
Just doing your theme song there.
Very good. All right. He's a quick learner.
Maybe I better put a hat on so the chrome dome doesn't blind everybody.
Right.
There we
Yes.
go.
I feel your pain.
Yes. Well, it's good to be here with 2 of my favorite Pastor Bobs ever.
You are too kind, my friend. That's awesome. It's good to see you, Rex.
It's a privilege. And I heard you just a minute ago. I heard you talking about Daryl Mansfield. Yeah, he's one of the pioneers of Christian music, not just Christian rock music, but or metal or anything else. But he was right there from the very beginning, and
absolutely so
a
talented,
trailblazer. And he is one of the best harmonica players in the world.
He played with Van Halen on stage a few times.
Did he? He's jumped up on stage with a lot of people. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He you know that Blues Traveler and the guy John.
Yes.
Yeah. He does all those crazy notes on the harmonica, and Daryl looks at me and he goes, "What is that?" And he just takes his harmonica and he mimics the same thing, and we were all like blown away. He just he plays the same. You wouldn't know the difference. It was amazing.
Incredible.
I think some of the best blues music that mainstream or Christian that's out there are the 2 Kaiser Mansfield albums.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I went and that's another thing. I went down to because they're in Chicago, so and I'm from Chicago area, so I went down to the studio when they were recording just to hang out and enjoy the show, and it was Daryl. I think Daryl was doing some things, and it was just amazing. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're incredible. Actually,
he told me
yesterday.
I said, "Why do you play harmonica?" And he said, "Well, he wanted to play guitar. He wanted to play lead guitar, and he couldn't get the coordination for a guitar, but he could play a harmonica." And he just tried to make his harmonica sound like a guitar. So That was his kind of his motivation from the beginning on the musical end of things.
That's amazing. Amazing.
And
Yeah, it's you never know how people get started. Yeah.
There we go. This way you can see my face.
Oh, there you go.
There you
You
go.
can see my face, and the chrome dome is not blinding to everybody. So
on Facebook,
and this is Denise, more classic Rex right here.
A classic look, yeah.
on Facebook, Denise says, "Hi Rex, thanks for all the great music." So,
that's awesome. Thank you, Denise, for coming on.
Yes.
Sigmar says, "Rex, I still have the Whitecross bandana in gold black."
Wow. Did he get autographs on it? I wonder if he got autographs on it.
I don't know. We'll see if he weighs.
He'll let us know.
Here's a good story for you, Rex. It says up on the screen, took his wife, then girlfriend, to see Whitecross for her birthday.
Oh.
1990. But sadly, she passed away 2 months ago.
Sorry to hear that, bro.
So
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. There was a guy, and he went to some college somewhere, and he was a freshman, and he didn't know anybody, and he was wearing his Whitecross shirt, and there was a gal who said, "I know that band." He said, "Really? I'm going to see him this Friday. Do you want to come with?" So they ended up getting married. He completed his degree, and by luck of the draw, Pastor Ron came to my home church to become the associate pastor.
Really?
And so I met this couple. They met over a shared love of Whitecross music. And they were like two of the pastors at my church for a long time. So music is a wonderful thing. It brings people together in many ways. As Pastor Bob, as you have seen over and over all the time, music it brings people together.
It totally does. And Rex, you and I have had the opportunity not to just go back a few years, because you and I have been friends for 30 years. Yeah. but we've traveled internationally as well to spend time with metalheads around the world. And isn't it great that this family is huge, continues to expand, and loves Whitecross?
It's amazing to me that Whitecross is even still in the discussion.
Yes.
Of music. So that's, I thank God for that. And in my case, it just comes down to that there is an undeniable call that I am God's man, I'm his servant, and I do what he tells me to do, and I go where he sends me, and that's it. That's all it is. And and I make a lot of mistakes. And you start talking about sin. I've got so much sin in my life, but yet at the end of the day, I lay down at night and I go, "Well, God, I'm still your man, and I go where you send me, and I do what you tell me to do."
Yeah,
good.
Or at least as the Holy Spirit enables me to follow His calling. That's what we do. I think that's
the best part.
And I think what I just said probably applies to both of you guys as well. Right?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Well,
and you just want to say, "Why me, Lord?"
Exactly.
Why would you choose me? I know me.
Well, if it was just if it had been up to me, I just would have played guitar and tried to find a band and be like Van Halen or something like that. I don't know.
Yes.
Well, according to Aaron Dean here on the screen, you can do it all, Rex. So,
if only it were true, that would be wonderful.
Well, and it's true. It's true. So
this is my morning coffee, by the way. Let me do a shameless product plug. I should get it's my Diet Pepsi. I should get an endorsement from them or something.
You should.
I've seen all your plugs for Pastor Bob.
Headbangers Brew.
Yeah, exactly.
Headbangers Brew. Yeah,
exactly.
So Rex, as you know, we call this Legends Confession.
Okay.
And if you live long enough, like well, like all of us have. Bob's a little younger than we are, but
He's getting there.
Getting there.
yeah, see. But if you live long enough, you after a while they call you a legend, which is an interesting thing. But
Yeah.
but you know what you just said about how God uses us in spite of us is the whole point. I know me. I know that I am once was a sinner saved by grace, and I'm a saint who occasionally sins at this point, but I'm still not perfect, and he knows it. And that's what makes us rely on him. And Rex, if you could say what is the secret to your longevity, not just in a band, but as a Christian, what would you say? How would you answer that?
Maybe you can help me out because I know there's the scripture verse, but I don't know where it is. I'm going to sound very ignorant here, but what's the verse about preaching the word in season and out of season?
Out of season, right?
What is that scripture?
Yes. Oh, I've forgotten.
Okay, but
yes.
anyways, maybe I can tell it this way. Way back around 1989, give or take. Whitecross was out in California. We went to, they said, oh, we got to go to this sanctuary church service. Bob Beeman is going to be preaching. And you were out there and you had your 80s rocker hair with the perm and everything. And
yeah.
It looked like you were ready to audition to be a member of Stryper. And then I remember that. And I remember there was something that you said that stuck in my brain. You said, well, wherever the cutting edge of music is, that's where we'll be. And then some years later after that, it's like, well, I could even recognize that, Whitecross, our style was and is rooted in the 80s. And then music had kind of moved to this more heavier style with Deliverance and Tourniquet and some of the younger, thrashier bands. And then I saw, oh, look, there's Pastor Bob walking around in his cowboy boots and his 80s rocker look. I thought he said he was going to be at the cutting edge of the music scene. So I thought, okay. And then many years went by, 15, 20 years went by, and we were coming over to a small festival in Norway. I think it was the Metal Fest in Oslo at that underground club. It was an awesome scene.
Nordic
Fest, thank you. And I saw you there, and it occurred to me that, wow, no, he really did stay with, and by that time your look had changed, and my look has changed of necessity.
Sure.
I have a little a Rex phrase. This is not grounded in scripture or anything, but this is just a Rex, one of my little mini Rex rules. We all are becoming who we are, and who you are is what we continue to express year after year after year after year. And when there was something that clicked inside of me at the Nordic Fest that and you were the object of this lesson, that when you see people over a 20 or a 30-year period and they talk about ministry and some people are just riding the wave of a movement or something, and they rise up for a little while and then they fade away. Mm-hmm. But then there are those who are plugged in. Their ministry is validated by the fact that they're in it year after year after year after year, in decades even. The consistency of the faithfulness to your calling validates, in my mind, it validates the things that you say. You have a teaching on a Sunday morning, for example, we have church service at the Nordic Fest, or the other thing in Switzerland that I've also seen you at. And
Rock.
yes, yeah. I'm so bad with words, but to see people faithfully sticking to their professed ministry, you know, this is who I am, this is my ministry, and there's a part of me, there's a skeptical part of me that says, prove it. And when I see the faithfulness year over year over year over year, that is a validation of sorts. That's, oh yeah, this guy really is sincere about his ministry. And then because of that, okay, so now I have that validation of preaching the word in season and out of season. In other words, it's fashionable and popular, and during other times when it's not fashionable and when it's not popular and when it can even get you in trouble. But when I see that consistency of your lifestyle, then that adds every continued year that you stay in that ministry adds weight and gravitas to your message. You know, the words that you say are supported by your testimony is the very fact that you have stayed in this ministry for so long that validates your calling. Am I making some sense? I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I see that, and that's why both you guys, it's like, you know, Bob, when you said, "Hey, do you want to come on this show with myself and Bob Beeman?" I said, "What? Are you kidding? I'll be there in a New York minute. I'll do it with you guys every week if you'd have me." So you get tired of hearing me talk, but I'll shut up and let you guys carry on.
No.
But that's a validation to me. So I see, you know, the faithfulness of your walk applied over time. You know, if we could make that into a formula, of sorts. You know, you express your calling, but then it's borne out over time.
I appreciate
that's the best way I can put
it. And I think you're absolutely right. Rex, it seems to me like there's something that happens in the course of ministry that changes our perspective. And let me explain what I mean. You know, honestly, I've been working in pioneering Christian rock for 50 years this next year. 50 years.
That's what I'm talking
about. It's been a long time, but it's been a wonderful time. I think it's been awesome, but I can't say that I have the same perspective today that I had 50 years ago by any means. And the difference, Rex, is that 50 years ago I was building an empire. And today I feel like my heart has changed and I'm building the kingdom. And back then it was, you know, how can we get Christian rock and roll out there? How can we, you know, do all of this stuff? And, you know, working with, you know, Larry Norman and Randy Stonehill and all the early guys, you know, Keith Green, and I can tell so many stories about all of them, but it was projects, it was getting stuff out there. And the projects almost were more important. The album sales, you know, the exposure, all of that was almost more important than the ministry aspects of it, although I never would have admitted that. And then, Rex, something happened, and I know that you understand this. Something happened in the course of all of that where I began to really fall in love with the people. And that didn't happen at the very beginning. I was in love with an agenda, but when God began to break my heart, when he began to give me his passion and his compassion for a specific group of people, the rock and roll, specifically all of these 37 years now, the metal crowd, it broke me to the place where instead of, you know, doing this, I began to mourn what people were going through. I began to to look at people with his compassion and love that I realized had absolutely nothing to do with me. And if people ask me, what's the greatest moments in ministry, I would have to say, when I lost my own agenda and God began to break my heart for people.
That's good.
Rex, I know you fairly well, and I know that is true for you as well.
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
things that I really appreciated about Rex was, of course, I was a youth group kid in the early 90s, and we had the Star Song video samplers that youth pastors would get. And
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
that was the first time I heard "In the Kingdom" by Whitecross, and I realized that
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
one of their rockiest hits, but it was a one that youth
Great
groups were
song.
playing all over. And then fast forward about 5 or 6 years when I was a youth pastor myself, and I was sitting in this hotel conference room. It was a side room for this thing called the Assemblies of God Church Growth Conference.
Oh,
And I remember sitting there because I was a teacher, and my track was called How to Build a Youth Group on a Shoestring Budget. But
Wow.
I was sitting next to
highly relevant.
What's that?
Highly relevant.
Yes. And I remember sitting next to the Assembly of God District Superintendent, who's basically the head honcho of everything. And I was a young youth pastor, and my verbiage to him as I looked across the room and I looked back at him, it was very spiritual conversation. I said, "Holy crap, that's Rex Carroll over there."
That's awesome.
And he looked at me kind of surprised, and I probably shouldn't have said that, but he goes, I don't know who that is. And I filled him in. Then I went over and introduced myself to you, Rex. And that's a lighthearted story, but it reminds me of the heart you have for ministry, that you were willing to be at this conference on a shoestring check, I'm sure. And in order to train, you were there to train sound techs and stuff for churches on how to run sound properly. And your ministry far exceeds Whitecross, Fierce Heart, King James, Rex Carroll Band, in order for you to really sow into the churches and people that have a passion for this. And I'll never forget that. I so appreciated that. And you had the longer hair at the time too.
Well, I had some hair at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, there was at some point along the way for me, there was a bit of a crossroads when it became apparent that this musical lifestyle is when I figured out that, okay, it's not going to be completely supported by the rock star career. Because there just isn't that big of a scene to support it.
Yeah.
And this is the way the die is cast.
Yeah.
So, and do you want to continue teaching music on the side and look at it as a sideline and something that you do to support your real career? Or are you going to just realize that, well, no, teaching is a great opportunity to have input, a helpful input into people's lives, and embrace it for what it is and when I kind of came to terms with that, then life it got better in a way I can't quite put my finger on it, but and maybe it was a similar moment. I started, I get less interested in well, how's the album selling? How's this going to look in the press? Those kind of issues, as compared to how's Joe doing? Did he get that lesson down that we did the last time? Oh, he had an issue he told me about. Maybe I can pray for him about this or that or the other. And I started becoming more involved on an individual level with students, and
That's awesome.
and that has carried over to the band life. You know, when you are in band life, when you are a touring musician on tour, when you're going to do a big show somewhere, but it still comes down to realizing that no, this is not a fan base. No, it's more of it's a house party, and all of your friends are there, and these are all the people that you care about, and that you do life with, and you know, and you're lucky to be there to play a little guitar for people and hopefully bring the word of God. And that's what we're here for. And I just want to see, you know, with all the issues that we have in the country and the world today, there's the only thing that I know is that our country is not going to be saved by a bunch of politicians mandating that we must have unity or else. It's the country's going to come together when there's revival.
Yes, absolutely.
And when we have revival, it's not going to matter what side of the political aisle you're on. That's not going to matter. What's going to matter is that people are falling in love with Jesus and being submitted to the Holy Spirit, and that's what I would like to see, and that's what I would like to see in the world. And to the extent that my music ministry continues, that is, you know, that's my confession, that's my testimony, that's what I want to see happening in the world. And, you know, anything that I can do to be a part of that until, you know, whatever amount of time that I have left, that's what I want to see happen. So there you go.
Well, and Rex, I think that's the bottom line for why you're still here.
Yeah.
You know,
all of us.
It's when God takes over your heart and you start to really love and mourn and feel for other people, and that's when ministry begins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Rex, one of the things I want to do before we end our segment and go into the next one, I'm going to jump the gun on our next guest. But I want to welcome in Don, because when he heard that you were on, he's one of our podcasters for Sanctuary. He said, "Hey, can you deal me in on that conversation with Rex?" So here's Don.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hi guys. Hi Don.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So Don, you and Rex are from the same part of the country.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I grew up in Aurora, Illinois.
All right.
And in fact, Whitecross was one of the first Christian bands that I became aware of back in the 80s. And one of the first shows I ever saw was Rex with you in the band opening for Bloodgood.
Right.
Wow.
Back in the early days.
At the Odeon.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's the show. You probably saw me right there.
We had the Odeon Theater, but we referred to it as the Odious.
Don's the one that threw his shirt on stage.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. You know, that was an amazing show. But I can tell you that I just wanted to personally thank you for your commitment in your faith, because the music was amazing. But the reality is the lyrical content driven by the scripture that you guys always had in those liner notes, that was significant. Whoever made a decision, just like the guys in Petra, to say, you know, we're going to put scriptures in our liner notes, that made a huge difference. You know, faith comes by hearing the word of God. And somebody has to bring the word, and you guys did that. I was a baby Christian. I knew nothing about the word, but I was hungry for the word. And every one of those scriptures, I would look it up and I would read it. And I would say, what does this mean? I want to know how this applies to me. How do I live differently? How can I live for the Lord based on what I'm seeing here and what I'm hearing in these albums? And when I met Mary Lou out at Sanctuary South Bay, my wife of now 30 years here in about a month, we had a shared love for your music, and the music meant so much to her too, and her growth early on in her faith, and the Lord used you guys in a mighty way.
Want to say shout out to Peter Stenlund over there in Sweden, who had just chimed in. So there he is. All right. Peter's my great friend over there. Similar mindset to all of us. Similar journey over in his ministry in Sweden. Anyways,
our good friend. I've stated it so many times.
Yeah, yeah. He has your picture hanging on the wall in his house.
That's great.
So, yeah, thank you, Don, for that. It's great to hear stories about people's lives, and I'm sure the Bob, you probably get the same thing as you just going along in your day, and all of a sudden there's an email or on one of your social medias, there's a private message that comes through, say, oh, your ministry impacted my life at the turning point in my life, and the stories that people will tell you that will just blow you away.
Yes.
Yeah.
In my case, of how a song or a record album or a concert or something that somebody said has impacted somebody's life. So
Absolutely.
Well,
So
Rex,
Don, what do you
God
remember about the concert?
What do I remember about the concert?
he headbanged so hard all of his hair fell out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't have hair back then. That's for sure. I think we all have something in common here, other than you, Bob. I don't know how you keep it, but I think, well, because I was so young, because that would have been probably back in 87, Rex? Is that right? Probably shortly after the first album came out.
Yeah, I think if we were opening for Bloodgood, I would have been about 87. Yeah.
I was so young. I hadn't been to a lot of shows yet. I may have seen Sacred Warrior at a school gymnasium back. They may not have even had the name Sacred Warrior yet.
Yeah.
And I was just learning about all this stuff. And I thought it was just amazing to see you guys. And I kept saying, they sound just like on the album. Those guys are amazing. They sound just like on the album. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
But it was great. And and you guys were faithful with the word. And that was exciting. That was very exciting.
Well, it's because we were just ignorant enough that we didn't have a management team telling us, now we're going to package your lyrics like this. We're going to be a little more sneaky with our lyrics. We just didn't know any better.
Good.
It made a big difference. And when you think about that, in my story, it's like, look, I had a few albums, and I kept looking. And Bob Adams, you'll appreciate this as a guy who worked at a Christian bookstore. All the young guys are into the music. We come walking in to these Christian bookstores asking for the latest and greatest. Like, what's going on? I want another album. All of a sudden, some of these albums started coming out on Intense Records, and this Pastor Bob Beeman was in the liner notes. Mm-hmm. And then before I know it, I'm going to Cornerstone, and Bob Beeman's at Cornerstone.
We were all fanboying at that time.
Yeah, that's right. And now I can tell you, this is how I ended up out from Illinois out to California. I was out there at Cornerstone, and I was at a juncture in my life, and I wasn't sure where I was going. And I don't want to get into all those details and bore you with that, but I really knew that I needed a big change. I knew that the Lord was going to do something different, and I wasn't sure where I was going. And Pastor Bob, you were always surrounded by people. Right? You always had people around you when you were at these events. Well, I came out from somewhere, and you were standing there at Cornerstone by yourself. There was nobody else there. And so I go up and I chatted with you, and you told me about Intense Studies. And so I prayed about that, and I kept that in mind. And within a couple of weeks, the Lord had really given me the calling and led me to, I need to move to Southern California, which my parents were like, what in the world? Who's this Pastor Bob Beeman? I know nothing about this. This isn't like there were cell phones like you could keep in contact. I worked for a month. I saved as much money as I could. I sold my car. I got on a plane, and I showed up at the Sanctuary House. And back then, Tina, she was the secretary. She goes, well, I know you called, but I didn't think you'd actually show up. So then there I was like, I need a place to stay. I didn't even have a place to stay. So I come out, and Tom Kohler was gone. He was out of town. So I stayed over at the Death House with the Precious Death guys.
Oh, yeah.
So so all that is, Rex, you and bands like you guys got me to California, where I met my wife. We have 4 kids. We live in Colorado, where we started a sanctuary in Denver back in the early 90s, and the rest is history. And here I am podcasting with Sanctuary International.
That's amazing.
It is
That's amazing. So all these stories are intertwining.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you guys, I can't help but think, though, excuse me, how thankful I am for all of these encounters. How thankful I am for your friendships, for the number of years that we've had in ministry together, and that we're still great friends. And I love you guys to death. It means a lot to me.
Likewise.
Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, we'll move on to our next segment. Rex, thanks so much for being a part of the show.
Yes, thank you, Rex.
You're most welcome. The pleasure is mine.
We need to know what's next for Rex.
What's
What
next?
What do you have coming up?
All right. Well, hold on to your hats, but I'm trying to work on a new Whitecross album.
Ah, great.
And there is, and I just want to tell everybody that the internal discussion that we've had in amongst the band is that we are not bowing to any cultural pressures. As long as I am a member of this band, we are going to preach Jesus Christ crucified and the way of salvation for the whole world. And I don't have enough faith to believe in random chance evolution.
Yeah.
If I had enough faith to be an atheist, I think that's amazing. That but, like if you take a swamp ash tree and a maple tree and metal that's in the ground that can be, and you give it 6 billion years of time, and you think that it will just randomly, you'll come out after 6 billion years with an electric guitar, with a whammy bar that stays in tune and somehow has the ability to pass electricity through it, and then that can happen via random chance. I say go for it. But to me, it's a lot easier to believe in Creator God, who created us for a purpose and loves us and has wants to be intimately connected to our lives. So
amen.
That's so
Amen.
we're just gonna stick with the plan and be strong in our lyrics and our message, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Rex, that is so exciting. Very exciting. Well, it's a reason to celebrate. We'll look forward to the new Whitecross album. They've always been my favorites, and appreciate it so much, Rex.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you.
Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks to you.
Yeah.
And Bob.
Bye-bye,
and Bob.
my friend.
All right. Take care.
All right, guys. Take care. God bless.
Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this official so we can reintroduce Don. We're going to give it a nice polished look. That's what we do here.
Okay, good. Good.
So we're going to go to a commercial break really quick, and then we will be back with Don in just a minute here.
How's it going, everyone? This is Jonathan at the Sanctuary Metal Shop, and I'm sitting over here where we store and pack all of the orders for the Headbangers Brew Coffee. So you can see over here we got all the products, and we do have the 5-pound bags back in stock. So if you're interested in buying bulk coffee, then head on over to the web store and purchase some. And we also have the K-Cups you can see over here as well. And everything from whole bean, ground, decaf, everything that you need for your coffee fix. And of course the proceeds all go towards the Sanctuary Homeless Refuge, which is a really good cause, obviously. And we appreciate you guys for supporting us. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, look, everyone, it's Don.
I'm back. Hey, thanks for letting me hop on with you guys here a little earlier.
Always. Yeah, I was excited when you asked if you could do that. So it's fun to talk to these people that are veterans in the rock world, the Christian rock world.
And Rex is the best, isn't he?
He sure is. And it's just encouraging to me to hear him being so excited and to be still doing what he's doing and be faithful and to make it about what matters most, right? About the gospel.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Consistently.
Yeah.
Right.
There's been a few people that have tried to track down for shows and stuff, and they're just not doing anything. They're not even, you can't even find them anymore. And Rex is still like excited, like the day he started Whitecross. He's just dreaming visions and heart full of ministry. It's been good.
So cool.
Well, you know, and it's our love for the Lord and our love for people that really keeps us going, isn't it, Don?
Yeah, you know, the one thing that I'm always reminded of is we get notes and comments and people reaching out because of the podcasts, and not just ours, but the others. You know, Bob, both of you, Bob's. People are hungry for the word, and people want to know more, and they're hungry for relationships. And unfortunately, so many folks don't have good church families that they can be a part of. And you know, we can't obviously provide that for everybody. We're not in every city, but you know, the ideal situation would be that every one of those people would somehow, in some way, that by God's grace, they would be able to be connected even with just one or two other people that they could connect with, and they wouldn't have to rely on, you know, something like this all the time. This is great, and we want to be able to participate with them, but we want them to be able to have more. We want them to have something on Wednesday and Thursday and Saturday when they're lonely, right? We'd want them to be connected with others.
Absolutely.
So.
And Don, people really are hungry for the word, aren't they? And, you know, Bob is going through a series right now of 16 things that he's learned in the ministry, which has been an awesome podcast, Bob, by the way.
Thank you.
Great job with it. And Don, you're going through a series right now also. And I love the title. It's a show that I used to watch when I was growing up.
Now you're dating yourself again.
I am, yes.
Yes. Father knows best. And, you know, and I got to tell you, I'm going to say this. I don't know if he's watching or not, but Nick Waite, who's just a wonderful brother. He's so great as a guitar player. And anytime we've reached out and said, hey, you know, would you be able to like metalize this? And we sent over a video clip. Chris sends over a video clip of Father Knows Best, the beginning of it, and says, can you make this into like a metal version? And literally within a couple of days, we've got it. Right. And I'm like, this sounds awesome. Yeah. And and I know that a lot of younger folks are not going to be familiar with that, but the concept, regardless of whether people know about the show or not, is really important, especially now. I mean, the world is crazy, right? This country we're living in is going berserk, and honestly, the church is too.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and we got to remind ourselves and preach the gospel to each other and to ourselves to say, look, God hasn't changed. All this stuff is going crazy, but you know what? It's not like God's wringing his hands going, what am I supposed to do next?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how can we trust him in the middle of a storm? You know, we can sing songs like
Kumbaya.
Right. You know, my mind didn't go there, right? I appreciate what Rex said, right? It's not that, hey, unity is going to somehow make us the kind of unity that, you know, the politicians in the world are going to preach to us is going to make it happen. That's not going to happen. But I do believe that first we have to be anchored personally, you know, in the Word and in the Lord and in following him. And ultimately, how can I sing a song like Martin Luther wrote, A Mighty Fortress is My God, a bulwark never failing? How is he not failing me if I can't trust him?
Exactly.
So how do I learn to trust him? And I think honestly, for me, at least for me personally, the barriers to trusting him many times is just that I'm so caught up in everything that's just happening right now in front of me and the anxieties of that I lose sight of him. And that verse, you know, be still and know that I'm God. Yeah. Right? We just don't always do that, right? We don't take the time to be still and know he is God. Maybe people haven't spent a lot of time really in the Word and meditating and looking at what he has said about himself. You know, an amazing thing is that God has communicated so much about himself to us. He hasn't left us in the dark.
I believe I speak on it often, that I say I think one of the best verses on how to pray is simply be still and know that he is God. Because, you know, I've been and we've all been a part of churches and prayer meetings, and we've fed the machine too,
Yeah.
where prayer meetings are nothing more than a spiritual golden corral. It's just,
Yes.
I want. And it's good when we just, holy way, shut up and
Yeah.
let God
Mm.
speak and let him do what he wants. And the whole be still and know that I'm God. I think those are some of my most precious times in prayers, when I just say, God, speak to me, and then
Yeah.
just sit in silence.
I think
And he
Chris mentioned.
does.
He does. Yes.
I think
Yeah.
Chris mentioned in the last podcast, it could have been the one before, a quote that I've always really loved from A.W. Tozer, that says, Tozer said, what comes into your mind, the first thing that comes into your mind when you think of God, is probably the most important thing about you. And it's true,
wow.
you know. And
Yeah.
how many folks are out there, maybe right now even listening, that their first thought of God is a God who's a policeman, who's a judge, who's not happy with me, who's bringing the hammer. And it's, you know, we have to have a view of God that's consistent with what he's revealed of himself. And when he says, I sing over you, I dance for you, like how can we not get excited about that? But I forget that too. We're not out there preaching this stuff in these podcasts because we got it all figured out and we've arrived.
Right.
It's because
Chris
God's
has.
showing us this.
Chris has arrived, but
Right, yeah,
Rex of us
exactly.
have not. Right.
Oh my, you know, we're a work in progress, and most
Yeah.
of the time a piece of work, right? But God is faithful.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we do as podcasters and friends is that we send Marco Polo chats back and forth. And if you don't know what Marco Polo is, it's a video messaging service.
Mhm.
So instead of sending a typed message, you send a video message and people can respond. And we have quite a few on that particular thread. And Don, yesterday you shared, and I love it when you share the hymns, because Bob and I share that enthusiasm for the old hymns of the faith. There is no other music like it.
Right.
And you shared that you were going through a bit of a difficult day, and the Lord had kind of slowed you down, and you said that the song, which happens to be my very favorite hymn, "It Is Well With My Soul," partly because of the history of the song, but then just the magnitude of the song. But it is well with my soul. And you said, but the third verse is the one that really hits me. Would you quote that third verse again?
Yeah. Spafford wrote, "My sin, oh the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin, not in part, but the whole,
Yes.
is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, oh my soul."
Yeah.
Mm.
That is so rich. And I have to say, Don, that takes me back to 12 years old.
Mm.
My mom is playing the piano or the organ, and I'm playing the piano for church every Sunday.
Yeah.
When I was 12, and that song, I just remember, and we sang all the verses, and I remember all the verses of all the hymns, but that one especially, but I have to tell you the rest of this story. Both of you had the opportunity to meet my father when he was still alive. And my dad was probably the most tender person with the Lord of anyone I've ever met. He could never talk about the Lord without tears, ever. Anytime he talked about the Lord, it was such a tender thing for him. And I just remember there were certain songs, I'd be playing the piano and I'd look over and I'd see these tears coming down. And it's one of the things that I remember first about It Is Well With My Soul, is looking at my dad and seeing the tears running down his face. And I'll tell you, that kind of legacy, and Bob and Don, you've left that kind of legacy for your families as well. But it isn't necessarily a great song, it isn't necessarily just because the lyrics are so good. It's what does it do for you? And in this case, watching my dad and watching him react to the song was more precious than the song itself.
Yeah.
Bob, I'm gonna just interject one thing here as a parent who's now doing ministry with his kids. It's very well true that he could be crying because those words stirred his heart. But I'm gonna go one step further. I think for a dad, seeing his wife and his son ministering together on stage would bring me to tears as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yep.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, he was an amazing musician himself.
Still is.
But Don, I have to say I'm very excited about this series that you guys are doing, and there is nothing more important than to know the heart of God, and to not just know him, but to understand him and to experience his heart in a variety of circumstances. And when you do a series called Father Knows Best, where you take all those situations and you place them at his feet, and you learn and you grow and you study and you realize that, well, like Vito's saying right now, the great is thy faithfulness. Great is his faithfulness because of what he's doing in our lives. That's a game changer, isn't it, Don?
Sure is. It sure is. And yeah, I mean, I love that song as well, Vito. Great is thy faithfulness.
Yes.
Because he is faithful. And we're going to look at that. And, the more we gaze at the beauty of Christ, the less we care about all this other stuff around us. We care about the people.
They go strangely dim
in the light of his glory and grace, right?
Yeah. Yes. Right.
But I do think that part of it is just, even you saying that just reminds me and it ministers to me. Like, we have to always share that with one another, because I can get so easily distracted, and my anxieties can just amp up, and the world is chewing you up, and there's so many things that are competing for your attention, and it's just hard to not get worked up. And of course, another thing is, and you guys can agree with this, here we are on social media saying it, but so many folks are spending so much time on social media, it's difficult to get out of that, I guess, echo chamber of hearing the same thing over and over again. And it just can get people's anxiety and ire up and angst up. And it's like, am I in the Word? Am I in prayer? Am I in fellowship? Am I doing other things commensurate with the amount of time I'm seeing all these things popping up in my feed? Because if I'm really slanted and weighted toward just watching that all the time, it's really going to be very difficult. Like, we used to worry, Bob, remember, we used to worry about garbage in, garbage out back in the 80s, whether or not somebody was listening to the wrong kind of lyrics that eventually would be an issue for them or what have you. But we don't even have to worry about music doing that to people, because we're on social media all the time just hearing all this stuff. And
garbage.
It doesn't matter if I agree with it or I don't agree with it. That's not the issue. The issue is I'm not hearing what I really need to hear, which is the truth of the gospel and the hope that we have in him.
You remember that old DeGarmo and Key song, Computer Brains?
Right?
Yes.
Yep.
That's a great song.
Yep.
That's true. And that's a great equation, Don. It was all music back in the day, but now social media is just a wasteland for all that stuff.
Yeah. We have to do battle.
Well, absolutely. And that's why I'm so excited for the series you guys are doing. Because at the end of the day, Don, and I know this is why you chose the title, but at the end of the day, when I've filtered through all of this stuff, Father knows best.
He sure does.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing, and he's not taken by off guard or by chance and going, oh my goodness, what do I do now? God's got a purpose in everything he's doing. He's working toward an end to glorify himself and for the good of all of his people. And the glory of the gospel's on display in the middle of it, and we can't lose sight of it. And I agree with Rex, and you guys have said it before. It's like revival. Hearts being changed is really what we need. It's not political change. It's not policy changes. Those things can be important, but the reality is unless hearts are changed, unless my heart is sewn to the Lord tightly, it doesn't matter about that stuff. We're still going down a trajectory of condemnation and damnation if we don't repent of our sin and come to him and then have rich and meaningful relationship with Christ and get to know him
Absolutely.
better. So,
Well, and we talked about that hymn briefly. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. But let me just quote the first four verses, or the first four lines. It says, turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full into his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and his grace.
Amen.
And isn't that the way that it works?
yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And we gaze at him, we see what the word is revealing of him, because the word is God revealing himself and sharing his heart with us and saying, come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And we're
Yes.
going to learn more of him. It never gets old. The gospel never gets stale. And we're going to have an eternity with him to experience even more and more and more of him. And so we're just priming the pump down here.
I
Right?
like that.
Just getting ready.
Yeah.
You know,
Bob, do you feel primed?
I'm feeling kind of primed. Yeah. Yeah.
it could just be the coffee though, too. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be the convenience store coffee that can prime
a
your
little
pump.
more oil
too.
in the joints.
Yeah.
So you
Right,
know.
right. But you know, I look. I guess one last thing about the podcast is we get so much out of it. It's not just about those who might watch and listen. We're
That's
getting
the
so much
best
out
part,
of
isn't
doing
it?
it,
Yeah.
getting ready for it,
Yeah.
and just a great reminder that we serve a great God
Yes.
who's got a great plan, and we're gonna see him unfold a lot of that through the word. It's not about my conjecturing about it. It's like, what does the word say? And let's just open it up and go to it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yes.
And we should point out that if people want to get in touch with your podcasts and stuff, they can go to wearemetalwearefamily.com or just do a simple YouTube search for Sanctuary International.
Absolutely.
So,
The Outlaw is on there too, right? The playlists are all there.
Yep.
Everything's there
Yep.
for
All
you.
the playlists are there. And so, yeah.
Awesome.
But
Well, Don, we sure appreciate you. And, you know, we've been friends for a very, very long time. And by the way, I still like you.
I love you too, Bob. You guys are awesome, and I just so appreciate being able to have ministry with you guys, and
Yes.
to connect
Amen.
like this. And I can't wait till we can get out to Nashville again. People may or may not know that we're out here. Chris and I are in Denver, so we're not out in Nashville all the time. And Bob, you're up in Wisconsin, so
yep.
you know it'd be great to have everybody together sooner than later.
Well, you
Absolutely.
guys need to make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and we need to do that soon. Yeah.
Nash Vegas.
There you go.
Las Vegas. Don, thank you so much for being with
Thanks,
us.
Don.
Always
Thank
so
you,
good to
guys.
see you, my friend. And it was just great to hear you and Rex talk a little too.
That was
Some
fun.
great
Thanks for
history.
that. Yeah.
Great history. Yeah. All right, my friend. Blessings to you.
Yeah. We'll talk to you
right.
guys soon.
Okay.
See you. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, it's always good to hear from Don. We don't get to hear from him a whole lot.
He's awesome. He really is
Yeah.
awesome. And you know, Bob, I should have told him to sing that instead
Yeah,
of
he's
just
got a good
quote
voice.
it. He's got a wonderful voice. When he moved to California, the one thing he didn't tell Rex was he was actually in a fairly popular band in his hometown there, a Christian metal band.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah,
Huh.
Jim says what happens in Nashville stays in Nashville. Jim actually lived in Nashville for a while. He's not here any longer. But
Well, I'm not sure. We have a few moments left. We try to keep this at an hour and a half. And
yes,
since we don't have any other segments today, then that's why the other ones went a little long. I suppose we could field some questions from our listeners. And
that's a great idea.
if
Yes.
anybody has questions for Pastor Bob Beeman or myself, feel free to comment here. If you have questions that come up during the week, then by all means, you can email us to pbs@sanctuaryinternational.com. And Pastor Bob will get those and we'll address them on the next show. I should say the next show will be on Wednesday. We had to move it one day just for something I have to do tomorrow. So, but yeah, if anybody has questions, otherwise we'll just keep yapping.
And we're good yappers, Bob.
We are good yappers, absolutely.
Yes. And we'd love to take questions. And when you're asking questions, ask the easy ones
Yes.
to send. Yeah.
like regular decaf, those sort of questions.
Exactly. Right.
But I should say
Exactly.
Headbanger Brew. My wife said I should probably drink more decaf. And I said, Headbangers Brew actually has a very good decaf coffee.
Dude, it is the best. And my mom, who is the world's biggest critic about decaf, hates decaf.
Uh-huh.
It's her favorite.
Wow.
So endorsed by Pastor Bob's mom. There you go. She
Here's a
likes it.
question from Amber Browning.
Yeah.
Glad to you're feeling better, PB. How was your mom?
She is amazing. She went through COVID, did the, lost her taste, did the whole thing. And now she's back on the trail again, and her car has just been washed and ready to go, and she's back out there, and she's going strong at 91. So
I am always
Yeah.
amazed at her when I come out and visit you, and
Yeah.
she just she doesn't stop. She's like the Energizer Bunny.
No,
It just keeps
she
going.
totally is. Yes.
She was. I'll
And
never forget. She
she's
was
the
just
best.
so thrilled when I put those new shock
Yes,
things in the back of her car so she could lift up the back gate on her own.
that was
And-
awesome.
And what she was excited about was that she gets to do more ministry, just loading up the car and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. So it's been good.
Well, she's the best at it, and she's been a great example of a godly woman, as I know your mom was as well.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what a legacy we both have, Bob. Honestly,
Yeah, it's
Yes,
a rich
very
legacy,
much.
that's for sure.
it really is. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
just I've up let's see, up here in my shelves, and it'll probably never see the light of day. I have an old cassette that the church recorded that I was raised in, and it's when I was 18. My mom and I did a duet of "The Blood'll Never Lose Its Power." So
Yeah,
and yeah,
Andre Crouch.
yep. So
Wow.
it's up there. I actually have it on digital format now, but again, it'll probably never air.
I would love to hear that. Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah,
That's
what
cool.
a great song, by the way.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. Here's a James is asking, how are your ducks doing?
Thanks,
That's a lighthearted
James.
question.
Yeah. Well, ducks and geese. And right before we started today, Bob, I ran outside real quick to do something, and they all flew in like crazy,
Oh, but not a
because they
hawk,
know
though.
that whenever I step outside, they're probably going to be fed.
Oh,
And I didn't have time to feed them, and they all gave me dirty looks.
uh-oh.
So as soon as we're finished here, that's what I got to do is feed the animals. Yeah. Yes.
That's cool. As one person says, David said, the kids.
The kids. That's true, David, and they are too.
Not too many people know this about you, but you are the Christian version of Tony Soprano with your
Am I?
with your ducks and geese, So,
It's true. They eat out of my hand. They're spoiled to death. They really
Yeah.
are. And I love it. Totally
Good.
love it.
well, I suppose we can
Yes.
sign off, and again, we'll be back next week. We'll have the promo material out within a day or two of who's joining us on the next show, and
Great.
this is always a highlight of the week for me, as I'm sure it is for you as well.
It's absolutely the highlight, and sure enjoy doing this with you, Bob.
Likewise.
Yes. So
All right.
good.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and
Yes.
we will be back next week.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.